Good evening from Tokyo, everyone. I'm delighted to be back with you with the Global Summit 2020 Impact Games. We have a very, very special and gamified session going on right now with our two favorite gamers from Jordan. We have Sham and Jana in the house, in the YouTube channel. We're going to be hosted by Rika Nakazawa, our hostess from the morning of the first day. And thanks so much to our interpreters, Andy and Jane in the background. I'm just coming from watching a session, our last session, hosted by Suzanne Bowles on community intelligence from the ground up. And that's really one big trim tab on how we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And now we're moving further into how do we use our greatest innovations to engage people even deeper? How do we take everything we've learned, take what's working, take what's really engaging people and get them excited? Anyway, I'm not going to get too into it because I know Rika has got some things to say with regards to technology. And I know that these young ladies have a lot to say about it too. But I just wanted to really be here and welcome both of you. Yeah, Sham and Jana have been really great leaders with the Global Summit. Back in Jordan, they were both champions. Rika will share more. And just welcome to this amazing session, everyone. And after this, we're going to continue the gamification of the Impact Games, jumping into the second night of our solution cafes, where we're going to be digesting this with the theme of technology. So anyone who's listening to this, if you have not signed up for the solution cafes, you can register and you will get an immediate link to join us in the solution cafes this evening and tomorrow. So, all right, without any further ado, I'll pass the torch over to you, Rika. Thank you very much. And ahlan, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And great job with the summit so far. I hear it's just been extraordinary. People from all over the world. And since I helped with the kickoff, since then, I haven't really been able to tune in as much as I'd like to. But however, waking up at 3 o'clock this morning was absolutely essential for me to be here. And you might wonder, as a CEO and co-founder of a social impact venture, what do I know about gamification? Well, I actually worked for NVIDIA back in 2006, where in a couple years later, all the Facebook games like Farmville and other games became very, very popular. And soon after, commercial mechanisms of gamification started to prove very valuable because, as we all are aware and experience ourselves, the addictive nature of achievement and seeing how you are performing against other people or being given certain targets or goals that you can measure yourself against are definitely mechanisms by which we can all motivate ourselves and find ways to motivate other people. And so gamification has now become something that isn't just about games. It is absolutely a part of how we interact and engage, motivate, and inspire people to take certain action and to stay consistent with that action. And so it's a great pleasure to be here today to talk specifically about gamification, because at the end of the day, we need to use whatever tools we can have access to really motivate and inspire how we can use gamification as a mode for social change. And so just as the digital age is transforming and disrupting industries, gamification with its built-in digital and social components holds a promise in changing individual behavior and solving social problems. Applying game design elements into non-game context, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about gamification. So let me give a couple of examples, and then it'll be my pleasure to introduce Sham and Jana, two young women who have been very much deep in this field and can speak more from experience. So Khan Academy, many of you probably know Khan Academy. Given COVID and coronavirus and distance learning, of all ages, and schools continuing to be closed as we get into the fall semester all around the world, Khan Academy makes people fall in love with learning through gamified online education. So when you ask kids these days, what is work? They'll say school. If you ask them what is play, they'll say video games. So I believe humans have an innate desire to learn. And I believe that I will be a lifelong learner my whole life. But for some reason, current school systems don't seem to be able to effectively motivate children to learn the way that they're supposed to. Of course, you have your outliers, you have teachers that are kind of like the Robin Williams from Dead Poet Society and so on. But in large part, that's the perception. So what makes matters worse is that many schools are getting their budgets cut, with teachers being laid off and children not getting properly educated. And on top of that, because of coronavirus, a lot of the education these days is partly on the responsibility of the parents' hands, as well as school administrators. And so this is where Khan Academy can come in and has really been amplified during the pandemic. What used to be just a guy teaching math on YouTube, which is literally how Khan Academy started, it became a collection of over 3,000 educational videos on math, physics, chemistry, finance, and a lot more, with millions of people learning from it. And not just elementary school kids. Khan Academy has become a resource for all ages. So Khan Academy utilizes lots of game mechanics, such as skill growth trees, to unlock new classes and learn new skills. Many have said that they couldn't imagine themselves ever enjoying or being good at math. Some of you can probably relate to that. But now the world has changed, thanks to some great teaching skills by Khan and a little bit of gamification. Now, the second example is around energy, which I know has been a hot topic. It will definitely be a topic for a session that I'll be moderating later today with Michelle Holliday around energy. So energy is a serious issue. It powers a nation's efficiency to produce and transport, but also leads to war in some cases, as we know. O-Power works to solve these problems by utilizing gamification to encourage people to use less energy. O-Power works with utility companies to provide households with data on how much energy they're consuming, how much they match up with neighbors, and that's a key part because who doesn't like a little bit of competition, and if they're close to any new milestones. Compellingly, people are consuming on average 2% less energy, which in 2012 led over to 1 terawatt of energy savings in the world. This equals to 120 million in utility bill savings, with decreased pollution equivalent of keeping 100,000 cars off the road. So as you can see, gamification isn't just for people that sit in the basement and play World of Warcraft. Gamification is absolutely one of the ways that we can make things fun, make things engaging, and inspire people to, frankly, be aware of other people that are in with you in a specific community and driving towards a common goal. So I just gave you a couple of examples that are a little bit abstract because there are stories about other companies and other entities that are leveraging gamification to do social good. But we are lucky because we have with us today, Jana and Sham, who are 2 young ladies that are actually actively engaging and leveraging gamification. And we are about to hear from them. But first, let me introduce Sakura Games, which is their brainchild. So Sakura Games is a game development studio in Amman, of all places, with a Japanese name. I love it. They're developing hyper casual and casual games that they publish with global publishers like Voodoo, Ketchup, Netmarble, Koali, and others. Their focus is supporting school curriculum and increasing the quality of education through edutainment video games to enrich the educational system in MENA, which is Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. So the co-founders that we have with us here today, Sham, she's 18 years old, professional certified from Autodesk and Maya software, and Autodesk expert student at the age of 18, game developer and 3D designer on Autodesk and Maya. And by the way, Sham, I'm sorry I don't work for NVIDIA anymore, otherwise I would give you graphics cards that you can use. And her sister Jana, who's 14, who has worked with more than 5 coding languages and is a game developer and programmer on Unity game engine. So really the stars of this show are Sham and Jana, and I'd love to hand it over to you ladies to please tell us more about what was the inspiration, what has been the journey, and where are you going with Sakura Games? Sham and Jana, please go ahead.
Thank you for the great introduction. Thank you. It's a pleasure being part of the Global Summit. As always, great event and combining all the experiences from everyone to make the world a better place. It's such a pleasure to be speakers. Well, as you said, I'm Sham and I'm the 18 years old, and Jana is 13 years old. Well, the idea started because we are school students. We know how boring curriculums are. We know how school is not that great place that everyone loves to go to. That's why we started the idea. And because we worked before in journalism, in voice acting, and in content making, doing edutainment games was combining all those experiences in these fields to bring something that's beneficial for the community. We were like, well, we know now how to make games and we know how to create content. So now let's do edutainment games. And actually, we've been working in this with a couple of schools, and the results are great. Well, I think we talk about gamification, like how games are occupying the world. I know it sounds awkward, but it's just like this. The ideas of game design, how it's applied, the mechanics, the ideas of giving people reward and motivating them to do stuff is actually brilliant, and it's all about creating the game's concepts. People are afraid of gamification because they say that, oh, maybe people start doing stuff instead of doing stuff for the purely intrinsic reason. They might start doing stuff for the short-time reward. So maybe this is not cool. But today we're going to talk about the great side, how games and gamification will make the world a better place.
Wonderful.
Talk about.
Yeah. Do you have anything you would like to add, Sham?
We want to tell you about one great example. It's called Quest to Learn. Well, a concept of gamification is when we go to schools, they tell us, well, wonderful, you've done great things. This is your certification. So you finished the high school. The accurate way of doing this is by gamification. You will be given badges as a way of confirming that, yes, you have these skills. Maybe badges would be more accurate. And this is something that has been applied, which is Quest to Learn. It's a school that's totally based on games. So every skill you learn at that school, you're given a badge for it. So when you finish school, the employer can see what skills you have, not what kind of curriculum you finished. Students learn by proposing, testing, playing with, and validating theories about the world. So feedback is immediate. Ongoing students receive ongoing feedback on their progress and skill assessments and goals. And failure is iteration. So opportunities exist for students and teachers to learn through failure. In the first semester ever in Quest to Learn, students learn to convert fractions into decimals in order to break a piece of code in a library book. So they can read maps, create a location guide for a TV series, and create a video tutorial series for a group of fictional inventors. So they added all the game mechanics inside that school, which is really brilliant.
So thank you, Jana and Sham. Would love to hear more about what was your inspiration, right? How did you actually decide, being such young women and taking on this large task? If you can talk to us about how you actually activated this, right? Because I think one of the biggest conversations in this whole narrative with the Global Summit is taking action, right? There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of ways that people will nod their heads and agree. But how do you move from an idea to taking action? And who was inspirational to you? Who were the people that were the heroes for you to motivate you to keep moving?
Well, our father was always our mentor and hero. He always encouraged us to try new things ever since we were young. Like when we started when I was 9 years old. So he encouraged us to try new fields so we can figure out what we want to do before we're old and we can learn anything new. So we started with journalism. We were young journalists covering news about kids. Then we moved on to dubbing, worked with DW documentary, added our voices. So the Arabic content was made by us and other voice actors. And then I learned programming and Sham learned 3D art. We combined all that and started. So if you have a good mentor, they can help you go from talk to action.
So that's interesting. I think one of the, sorry, I'll come back to you. I was just going to just follow on that. So we know in one of the areas, we have a Feminomics cafe after this in about an hour and a half. And this is an area that I've been deeply involved in. I grew up in Japan where women are definitely not as represented, not necessarily encouraged, right, to take initiative. I know that the Middle East has its own challenges. And so how have you been reconciling that? Do you feel like there is an element of greater opportunity for your generation because of figures like your father? And I know we're getting away a little bit from the gamification topic itself, but this all comes back to the taking action and also essentially where you are now being the future role models, right, around the gamification arena. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about your personal experiences with a father who was so encouraging of women in what is potentially a very challenged environment for women in general.
This is really important. Actually, in the field, there is no girls. And even the minimum amount of girls or women who are working in the region in games development, they are employees. So there is the least amount of women who have their own startups and especially games. Games, coding and design and this stuff, it's kind of, maybe boys or men are better in doing so. And that's why I think before 2 months, we published a new game called Car Girl Garage. It encourages women to develop their own cars, to fix cars and using basic DIYs. So the main character called Maryam, and she's the woman who owns the garage. So I think we are trying our best to break those kind of stereotypes that, women can do those kinds of stuff. I mean, we are in 2020. We should not stay with this mentality. So, and every day when we wake up and we are passionate to do games, the reason is the results. When we see how parents are really happy, how their kids are improving by using our games, when companies are surprised by, wow, you do this in your age. Well, we don't want their surprise. We want that really our work is competing all around the world. And especially in these times, I mean, you can access everywhere with your experiences. It's not about just gamification and games. They are great examples of encouraging people to do good stuff. I mean, gamification just started by encouraging you to make a survey. Well, you get points. Those points are becoming coupons or sales. But now you can, as the example you talked about, Power, the results are great. How it's changing many people's life. So I think it's really important.
Yeah. And do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. So as we look at the different examples and you are really delving into how you use gamification itself, what are the ways that you have been on the receiving end of gamification? Can you give some examples of where you have been the customer of gamification?
Well, our story of gamification is kind of weird. In the beginning, when we heard the word gamification, we were working in game design and games development. So we were like, so gamification is the concept of getting inspired from everything around you and transforming it to a games. And then we discovered that it's totally wrong. Gamification is about making everything around you looks like games, so that you can motivate others and give them the encouragement of doing stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't do gamification systems, but we get inspired from those systems, and we use game design to give ideas about how gamification can work. But we were once customers of gamification. Well, we were really interested in Japan and the culture of it, the language. We started learning the language. And the app we were using was using a gamified system. So it was giving you points for every word you learned, then testing you to see if you actually learned the word and memorized it. So it motivated us. It motivated us to learn the language, and we actually learned how to write hiragana and reached a good level. But then we stopped, unfortunately, because we have more to work on.
Well, what you mean kanji? Maybe 2 or 3 kanji. No, that's amazing. So where do you see yourselves in 3 years' time from now?
Well, we hope to convert the Jordanian curriculum into supportive tools that's given to teachers in class, so that they can use them along the curriculum to make the classes more enjoyable and interactive. So students will learn through books, but also can apply what they've learned through video games. If you ask in a later date, maybe we tell you that we want the whole world to be gamified.
Yes,
that would be.
But really,
3 years are not enough to do that.
The whole world gamified.
Can you imagine that?
Well, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thought in terms of, you know, if people are set with the right goals, right? And so I think what we need to have is a balance of how we motivate people to do the right things, with the balance of making sure that people have the time to think about, to have critical thinking about why, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, gamification is great because it really plays to the primal human desire to achieve and to compete. And, but I think it's also important for people to be able to stop, as I said in the poem that I cited at the beginning of the whole leadership forum, is the opportunity to stop, listen, and think as to why. Because, for example, with the O-Power, and I know there was another startup in, I think it was Silicon Valley, that did something similar where they gamified your water consumption. So they would tell you if your shower took 4 gallons, but your neighbor's shower took 3 gallons, and, you know, gamified that so people use less water. I think it's also at the same time good for people to think about why, because it's easy enough to want to compete in that way, but to stop and think of why are we trying to preserve water, right? And thinking about that. So I agree with you. I think gamification is something that will hopefully get people excited and joyful around the fun, but there's also a very serious component that I think people need to think about as to why something needs to be achieved as a goal.
Yes, yeah. When talking about this, I think we should mention the Chinese credit system. I mean, the concept of it, that, well, if you're a good person, you get good points, so you get features in the country. I think it's great, but also we can't stop people freedom. We can't restrict it. Yes.
Do you want to explain that? I don't know that everybody who's listening to this or watching this knows what the Chinese credit system is.
So the Chinese social credit system plans to rank all the citizens based on their social credit. So if you do something good, like nice for the environment, for your for yourself, for your neighbors, you get social points. But if you do something bad, you get less points. And based on that, the services are, you're allowed to use some services and some not. So if you're a bad citizen, you're restricted from using many things like the train, and you can travel from the country to another if you have a bad social score. That's less than average.
Your behavior is translated to points, and upon that you get features, or you'll be treated in the country. So I think it's a great idea when you talk about it. Wow, it's cool, like we're in a game. But I think we can't reach that type of restricting people, especially because maybe they don't want it. They want to be bad. Well, it's not good. But I mean, you can't restrict people freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And also because you also have to consider who's in charge of giving the points, right?
Exactly.
There's potentially bias in that. So going back to Sakura Games, tell us what has been some of the feedback from teachers, from your friends, from students, and do you see Sakura Games being one of the game changers for education, like a Khan Academy?
Mm-hmm. We see it, yeah. And about the feedback, well, we got some feedback from some parents that their children didn't used to wake up early, hated waking up early, like all children. But when they started playing our game, they would just wake up early to play it. So they would fight who would play first because they had only one device to play on. So they'd wake up earlier than the other kid so they can play it. And we got something from an adult on Car Girl Garage. She said that she had a brain injury and that she forgot how to do most of the things. She lost her memories and skills. And our game was making it fun for her to learn it again. So this really makes us feel very happy. This is the reason why we keep on working.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, and I think that, and I don't know if this is something that you have considered, but you are a very young woman. You're 14 and 18 years old. So you have your whole life ahead of you. And it's very likely that you're going to live past 100, right? We're all living longer. And Japan, right, which is a country that you had the affinity for, learning hiragana and even calling your company Sakura Games. So in Japan has the largest elderly population, people living past 100. So do you imagine that down the road, the work that you do will also extend to senior citizens? Because one of the ways that people will keep dementia and mental illness at bay is through mental exercises and games. So is that something that you've thought about at all?
Yes, of course, we're planning to do so. And we started with kindergarten students. Now we're working with high school. And inshallah, in the future, we'll be working with college students so that they can learn how to do a surgery or stuff with AR and VR technology. So for sure, we're planning to expand the market we're targeting.
Yeah, so every year we're targeting an older market. So in the end, we'll surely reach the elderly.
Yeah. Yeah. And how has COVID-19, has that impacted your work at all, either in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way, actually, because school stopped. So we had more time to work, and staying at home more with the time of going out and going to a place and from a place to another is not being wasted, and we're using it for working, this is so much better. We were more productive now.
And especially in the Middle East, people are more willing to learn through games, through online things. I mean, for a couple of years, you should go to school. School is your future, but now people are more accepting how you can learn online. You can go to a college online. You can play games, and the games are educational. So the people's mentality is changing because of this pandemic. Unfortunately, it should have changed before for a better reason.
It forced them to change the pandemic. So this was a good thing, since people wouldn't have thought about it ever if the pandemic wasn't here.
That's great. That's great. So one of my last questions for both of you, and I know you weren't expecting this, so if you need to think about it, please do, because this whole conversation has been very spontaneous, is if you were in a game where the number of badges that you got were to give you the prize of having coffee or tea with anybody in the world today, who would that be and why?
Well, I don't know.
Hard.
This is the hardest question ever.
Even if he had died?
Yes.
I don't know.
Steve Jobs, maybe?
Yeah, not sure about that. Maybe for Sham. Well, I don't want to sit with anyone personally. I think I'm fulfilled. I don't want anyone. Thank you.
That's okay.
I think maybe Gosho Oyama. Well, it's weird. He's Japanese, and he's the writer of
Detective Conan.
I
want to ask him about the last episode. Meitante Conan. So if he can tell us what happens in the last episode, because he's been postponing it for like forever. We really want to know what happened.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the television shows use gamification elements, right, to make you want to watch the next one in some ways. So they're doing a good job. Okay, so let's wrap up, and just do you have any last thoughts or comments for the watchers of this session today?
Well, if you're young, just start now. Do everything. Practice well, I just remembered the story when I was in high school. We had to
when I was finished high school.
Okay, I finished high school from 1 week. Okay, so
discrimination.
Well, in the
I'm not sure.
We had to make
dissection.
We had to make a dissection for a rabbit in the biology class. So I went back home and I told my father that no way, he's so cute. It's so cute. We shouldn't do so. Why? We don't have to do so. And then my father told me back then that you did not know that you want to make games until you tried many fields. So how many girls in your class, they don't know that they want to be doctors, they want to work with animals, they want to do so, and they don't know because they haven't tried yet. So leave this opportunity for them. And actually, yes, after we did so, we discovered many doctors in our class. So always try. And if you're a parent, just help your kids. They need your words, they need your support. Make them try many things, because sometimes you're stuck with something that's not that beneficial for you, but your parents, they know more about your future and your stuff, and that's it.
And well, something else, which is you are your worst enemy. Insecurities. Well, all the teenagers nowadays are insecure because of social media. They go on Instagram, see that everyone's happy except them. So they feel like they are not good enough and their life is not good enough. They feel insecure about their selves. And so if you keep feeling insecure about yourself, you're never going to reach anywhere.
Yes.
So learn to love yourself, and you don't need to love yourself. Just be at peace with it. Then, only then, you can become something better.
And being busy is much, much more better than being bored.
Yeah.
Be busy, do stuff, try things, and that's it.
Yeah, 100%. So Jana and Sham, if people that are watching this would like to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, and yes, one more last thing. We started a YouTube channel to share what we've learned and our journey, how we work in games development. So we upload videos about the game jams we participate in and stuff like that. It's called Sham Jana AlBdour. So we'll be happy if you went there and you subscribed.
Okay, so I'll send the link. Just give me a second. And I will send our emails too. So if you want to contact us. Okay.
You're going to put it in the chat?
Yes, it's in the chat.
Okay, no, I sent it to you privately. Just
if you want to send it to the attendees and
okay. This is Sham's email. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Well, Sham and Jana, thank you so much. I am so hopeful and inspired for the future with extraordinary leaders like you who are doing things that are making an impact, making a difference, and that you're so early on using such a critical part of gamification, which is something that can help motivate people all around the world. And so please keep doing what you're doing, do more, continue to connect and touch people from all over the world with the great work that you're doing. I hope we get to meet in person sometime soon once we're past coronavirus. I have not been to the Middle East yet as a region. I've traveled to almost every other country, it feels like, but I haven't been in, and I just want to thank you for making such a huge impact already. And thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to seeing
you for having us. It was a pleasure.
I'll be reading about you in news headlines, and I'll be able to say I had the chance and the privilege of connecting with these two young women. So thank you so much.
Wow, thank you for your words. Thank you.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the Leadership Forum.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Bye.